Well, hey everybody! Thanks for tuning in to the weekly video vision update for the Christian Life Center. My name is Josh. I'm one of the pastors here at the Christian Life Center, and the purpose of this video each week is to remind you of the why behind the what. So, if you're brand new to this, let me explain to you what I mean by that. Is every week there's a lot of stuff going on at the Christian Life Center, and there's a lot of words, right? Lots of stuff going on, a lot of information being disseminated and communicated, and lots of words about what is going on. We have the weekly email newsletter. You should sign up for that if you want to know what's going on. And we have ways by which we can communicate via a mobile app, and we have email and text and in-person communication and quarterly publications of all the stuff that's going on. There is a lot of what that we want to make sure you are aware of and have the opportunity to participate in. Now, because there's so much what one of the things that we want to guard against is to make sure that we don't lose sight of why we do all the what's, right? And so the purpose of this video is to just remind you very specifically of why the Christian Life Center does the things it does and how you can participate in those things. And the answer to all the whys, right? Why is this? Why do we have movie nights? Why do we have Sunday morning worship services? Why do we do church online? Why do we do small groups? And why do we have kids ministry and student ministry? And why do we have women's ministry? The answer to that why can be summed up really simply in our mission statement for the Christian Life Center. And here's what it is right here next to me on the right side. See that? I'm looking at them. The mission of our church is to make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. Now, just to be clear, simple is complicated. To make something simple requires lots of work and a lot of energy, but all the stuff that we're doing at the Christian Life Center, our goal, our mission is to make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. The reason we have movie nights, make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. The reason we show Eagles games on Sunday afternoon, there's only one reason, to make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. The reason we have kids ministries, to make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. So the whole mission, every why behind all the what is that, to make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. So this video is to kind of help explain why we do the things we do in that way. And so when we think about the mission, that's it, make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. We go, well, what is the actual strategy to make that happen? And here we go. Just want to remind you of our strategy at the Christian Life Center. And we kind of do three things. The three things we do is we build excitement, then we build foundations, and we build bridges, right? So that's our strategy. All the what's behind the why are all in these three categories. How do we build excitement? How do we build foundations? And how do we build bridges? And so I want to highlight those three real quick. And then I want to talk to you very specifically of what we're going to be doing to build excitement starting in the month of October. So stay tuned. Definitely worth your time. And so one of the primary ways, in fact, the primary way where we focus on building excitement is actually through our weekend worship services, our Sunday morning worship, right? We believe wholeheartedly that the gospel is worth celebrating, right? There's really, really good news that there is a God who loves us. There is a God that made a way where there is no way, that God is still in control and in charge, and he's bending all and shaping all things for mine and your good and for his glory. That is worth celebrating. So what we do each and every week is we open up the Bible and we try to learn from it about who Jesus is, and we try to become more like him. And in those moments, what we hope happens is that you begin to get excited about what the ramifications of Jesus' life, his death, and his resurrection could mean for you, your family, your workplace, our world, all those things. So the primary way in which we build excitement is through singing songs about Jesus and singing songs to Jesus and learning about Jesus and trying to become more like Jesus. So for 80 to 90 minutes on the weekend, we're going to open up the Bible and we're going to sing and talk and learn all about Jesus, right? And so the way by which we build excitement, kind of the primary way, is we want to put all of our focus, all of our attention to Jesus. And this week specifically, you'll get to learn very clearly why we build excitement and why we do those things on Sunday morning. So you can understand the reason that we make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. This will be the Sunday that you can show up and learn all about the reason that is our mission, and talk specifically about how you can participate in building excitement. This is really, really important. You see, the idea of a church worship service or a moment on the weekend is Not that we just want you to show up and be a spectator, right? Just an audience member. We're not real interested in going, how do we have just more people listen and follow? That's not the significant part of what happens on Sundays. And in fact, the way I'd say it is this way. You're really, really missed when you're not there on the weekend. You're really, really missed when you you don't participate online with us, right? This whole idea is that this isn't that you would show up and listen to someone sing, listen to someone talk, and you just kind of are on the receiving end of that. The reality is, if you're a Christian, you believe these things. The Holy Spirit literally lives inside you. Maybe you're not so confident how that works or don't really feel up, but the reality of what we read in the scriptures is Jesus is with you. So as you show up, whether that's online or in person, you are bringing the God of the universe with you. And collectively, hundreds and hundreds of people are walking in, showing up into an environment where we get to build excitement together, right? You know this. Jokes are funnier when you hear them with another person, right? There are sitcoms that you think are hilarious, but you don't really like watching them with just by yourself, right? Because we know that the significance and the impact of a moment really does increase when you experience it with additional people, right? And so when the scriptures tell us that we should not stop gathering together, there's a real specific reason. There's something about the shared moment that makes a significant movement in our life. So I just would say the way we build excitement, kind of the primary way, is on Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock, and then 10:45 and 5 p.m. where you get to participate. So would you figure out a way to do that? If you don't feel safe showing up in person yet, would you make sure to carve out some time on Sunday mornings, and would you participate in the live chat, all those things where we are building excitement together? And as we build excitement together, as people who show up who aren't so sure about who Jesus is, the jury's still out of whether or not they believe him or believe he's good or believe he has a plan. As they experience other people's worship, as they experience this excitement about who Jesus is, there's something that transformatively happens in their heart and their soul, and you get to participate in that. And so one of the ways we make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another is actually through building excitement. Now, what we believe happens, and you'll see that right there on the screen, is as we build excitement, there's something that's kind of created, right? And what it creates, and many of you you've experienced this, is it creates some passion, right? All of a sudden you go, if that's true, I want involved in that. If that's true, then that could change my marriage. If that's true, this could be the thing that we're looking for the messiness in our life, the messiness in our family. And so what happens week in and week out as you learn more about Jesus through learning his scriptures, right? And become more like Jesus as you worship him, right? You become what you worship. As those things happen, you become more passionate about those things. So inevitably, as you become more passionate, this building excitement creates that. What happens is all of a sudden you and I, we go, okay, maybe there is something to this. How do I get more information? How do I participate in it more? So building excitement should create passion. And as a result of creating passion, it should give us the opportunity to start building foundations, right? This is where people self-identify. And for many of you, maybe you haven't done that yet. You haven't actually made yourself known and go, okay, I think this is actually true. I want to participate in a deeper level. This is where you raise your hand, right? This is where you fill out the Connect card. This is where you kind of identify that you are ready to start participating in the life of the church and the life of the gospel, right? This is where we go. We want to build our lives on a firm foundation for who Jesus is. And so one of the things to do, we want to build excitement so that you, your neighbors, your friends would become passionate about who God is and passionate about being involved in his work. And as a result, sign up to build foundations. This is a big significant part of this is groups, right? We want to get you what we say is out of rows into circles. We want you to feel like you can belong, right? The purpose of our groups is to invite you to hold each other accountable to the things you're committed to, right? For your marriage, for your family, for your life, and then feel a sense of belonging, right? Many of you go to our church and feel still disconnected, and I would argue wholeheartedly, it's going to be really hard to connect in a row, but it's not really hard to connect in a circle. So not only can you feel the sense of belonging, and what's really beautiful as foundations kind of are created in our church through groups and learning opportunities and connect on Wednesday classes, all those things, is all of a sudden you get the opportunity and learn that you have gifts and skills and talents that you can care for the body. You can be cared for by the body of the church, and you can go care for our community. So we build foundations. And what we hope happens, right, is that as you build excitement, you become more passionate. People become more passionate about the gospel, and they sign up and go, I want to know more about Jesus. I want to become more like Jesus, right? That's passion. Now, I would argue that passion is an emotion, right? That's where people fall in and out of love, which isn't true, by the way. But this belief that this is this passion, and one thing that happens is you would get really excited about who Jesus is, and for a moment, you kind of just say, I'm interested. You fill out the form, and then 3 or 4 days later, you go, oh, what was I thinking? Right? You just made an emotional decision, and we all make emotional decisions. But what we hope happens as a result of being building foundations, right? Like significant foundations, that passion actually turns to zeal, right? You see it there, that building foundations creates zeal. Like this is where the roots go really, really deep. Regardless of the circumstances, you are trusting God, you are participating in his church because nothing can shake you because Holy Spirit lives in you. So we believe wholeheartedly that when you become so firmly rooted in Jesus, all of a sudden you can't help but go and become like Jesus and love people the way that Jesus does, right? So that foundation piece should create resolve, steadfastness in us so that you can participate, we can participate in building bridges. Now, in order to build a bridge, you got this, right? You have to have footings on both sides of whatever the ravine is. And so when we think about building bridges, we think about two different sides. We think about the bridge at our church, right? If that's online, that's at 125 Saginaw, like our actual church property. We want to create a way by which people feel really, really safe to come and show up, right? We want to build bridges. That's why we're doing Eagles games. And that's why we did trails or treats, these things where we're going. We want to build a bridge into our community because here's what we believe. We believe wholeheartedly that people eventually and always return to the last place they felt loved. And so how do we create a footing where our church is a place that loves our community well? So we build bridges. We build bridges in our church property, and we build bridges into our community. That's why we go to First Friday in Oxford. That's why we hosted a movie night just a couple of weeks ago at Lincoln University, right? We're trying to build bridges into our community. So as a result of these foundations, these firm foundations, what happens for us is we can't help but go and serve and become like Jesus. And we want to continue to create opportunities for you to be able to do that, to build bridges into our community, into our church, into your neighborhoods. And I'll share more and more about how you can build a bridge in upcoming weeks. But what we believe happens as a result of building bridges, so building excitement should help create passion. Building foundation should create zeal, resolve, right? We believe as a result of building bridges into our community, into your neighborhood, right? It should create intrigue, right? More people are going, is this true? Why does that person serve that way? Why does that person have that temperament? How did their marriage get from where it was to where it is now? Why do their kids and why do they get along with their family? Why do they have that kind of evidence of patience and grace and peace out of their life, right? So we hope as a result of building bridges that people become intrigued, right? Building bridges creates intrigue. And guess what happens when intrigue is created? More people are interested in the reality of who Jesus is, right? So guess what they do? They log in online to catch a worship service. They show up on a Sunday morning to catch a drive-in service, right? They show up to go watch a movie because all of a sudden they're intrigued about the possibility that God could be really good and really loving and really gracious, right? So guess what? As a result of building bridges, it creates intrigue, and more people show up to do what? Become excited about the gospel. And as more people become excited about the gospel, they self-identify to start building foundations based on Jesus, right? And as a result of building foundations, they can't help but serve like Jesus, which means they're building bridges. And as they build bridges, guess what happens? More people become intrigued, and they keep showing up. You see the pattern. It's cyclical. It's never ending. Why? We do all these things just for one reason. We're going to make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. So how do we create environments? How do we create environments on Sunday mornings to be able to do those things? Now, what I want to talk to you very specifically about is what we have coming up in the beginning of October as it relates to building excitement, right? So first thing I'll point out here is in order to make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another, right, and remove those obstacles, you'll hear more about it this weekend, we have to kind of identify those obstacles and identify the ways by which we can meet people where they are, love them well, all those things. And one of the hangups we have right now and in our COVID-related world is trying to figure out how we can make it simple. It used to be you just show up on a Sunday, remove the obstacles, and it's more complicated, right? Some people aren't showing up right now because of all sorts of reasons. So we're trying to double down on our online resources to make it simple there for people to connect to Jesus and to one another, right? So we're thinking about that. But another hang up, and many of you are feeling this, is many of you are struggling with the idea of showing up and building excitement, because as you're trying to build excitement, you're also trying to keep up with your 3 or 4 year old in the sanctuary outside. And I understand completely, it is exhausting, right? And even the folks you would invite into our church, invite to a worship service, also have little kids. And one of the things that's happened over the last 6, 7, 8 months is trying to figure out how to navigate the coronavirus and create safe worship environments so that we can be good neighbors, right? We don't want to we want to honor what guidelines are out there, and yet we want to figure out a way to gather together. And one of the things that kind of we had to do in the middle of this was kind of pull back on what we can offer via children's ministry, via CLC Kids. And so as we kind of sorted through that, what became evident is for a period, we decided not to do any kids ministry, right? So you show up outside of the church service, but it's just you and your kiddos listening, and we understand the complexities of all those things. Now, so a few months back, what we did is we re-implemented Kid Zone, but we did it for just a very specific age. In fact, it was those who are going into first grade all the way to those who are going into 8th or 9th grade, right? So we had some ministry environments there. And the reason we did that is we understood that at least kindergartners last year knew how to follow rules and knew how to stay within the framework of boundaries. And so we thought that seems to be the most appropriate way to begin going back into kids ministry. And we could do that with very few volunteers because we have a highly competent, highly passionate kids ministry staff, right? And so the family ministry at our church decided we would start re-engaging, first grade through 8th grade, and that's what we've been doing for a while. And there's been a lot of questions of, okay, when are we going to add more? For example, now we have kindergartners in school, but hey, when can they get engaged in Kids Zone? Remember, our goal is to make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. That's both your child and you. So how do we remove the obstacles, whether a kid not being able to sit still that long, understand the preaching, whatever those things are. So how do we remove that obstacle so that people can see Jesus? And how do we create an environment where a parent can actually sit and receive and not have to worry about all the distractions around them? And so been working through that, and here's the reality. Our plan is the first week in October, that first Sunday, so on October 4th, would be to go ahead and add a 4 and 5 year old class as well. So now we are basically 4 years through 8th grade. We'll now have kids ministry available, and that starts on October 4th. And the reason we can do that, very candidly, is because we've had people sign up to volunteer and go, I want to build whatever foundation I can. I want to build whatever bridge I can. I want to serve so that more people can come and be excited about the good news of who Jesus is. And so, as a result of more people using their hands and feet, we're actually able to add that class. However, while we have a bunch of teachers, by that I mean Kid Zone teachers, who are willing to do that, we could use some more help as it relates to volunteers and helpers, right? So not the people teaching the Bible class, but the ones who are actually helping and supporting teachers. We could use a lot more folks. And you might be a middle schooler. You might have a kid who's a middle schooler or a high schooler, but now's the time to kind of jump in so we can continue to build excitement. Now, if we can get enough, right? So as we're adding more to get kids ministry back in, our next step would be to add a 3-year-old and a 2 and 3 year old class. So we're trying to work through it. But again, what we need is more and better volunteers who want to participate in helping make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. In this caption, whether you're watching it on our website or Facebook or YouTube, there's a place that you can click and sign up to volunteer. Would you do that? Even if it's once every other month, once a month, or once a week, whatever you desire, would you deeply consider participating in this so that we can make it simple for more people to connect to Jesus and to one another? So that's one of the things coming up. Now, the reason why this is so important right now is starting in October, not only are we going to expand children's ministry, we're also going to be introducing a new sermon series. Now, here's what's weird about that new sermon series, because I've told you that we're going to be in the Gospel of Luke for quite some time, and now I'm telling you we're doing a new sermon series. Well, here's what's going on. We'll be continuing through the Gospel of Luke, so we'll just be charting right through Luke chapter 3, Luke chapter 4, and Luke chapter 5. But the really neat stuff about where we are in this sermon series, Jesus is about to establish his kingdom, right? So he hasn't even recruited his followers yet, but he's about to stand up, and Luke's going to prepare for us to understand what's about to happen. Jesus is about to enter into ministry and begin the establishment of a different kingdom and a different, regime. right? In other words, there's this Roman regime going on, this political regime. And then there's this, Jewish regime going on within the religious, regimes. And so that's going on. And Jesus is about to start and establish his own kingdom, right? In other words, he's about to become the leader of the free world. And so as Jesus is preparing for this, I think there's just a lot that we can understand and see and learn and participate in as it relates to where we are in 2020. So what's about to happen is I am going to start a new series, and I want to introduce it to you right now on October 4th called Jesus for President, right? So Jesus for President, this idea that maybe Jesus really still is in charge, and maybe there still is this kingdom that he's ready to put together and invite his followers to, right? That our first allegiance would be to his kingdom and Jesus as King and Lord. So we're going to look at this and try to figure out, okay, what does it mean for us as 21st century Christians in the middle of an election year? And so we're trying to build more excitement on the idea of the gospel, build bridges into our community for people who are trying to figure out what to do in this chaotic world, and help them build foundations as connecting together and having conversations about these things. And so October 4th, we'll be continuing to walk through the Gospel of Luke. We will be taking 5 weeks or 6 weeks all the way through our election to prepare us and learn more about who Jesus is and what we could do to participate in the gospel and the kingdom now in the middle of all the crazy and complicated political climate. So worth your time. Show up this week so you can hear more about the mission and vision, but then show up next week so that you can begin this really intriguing series of figuring out what Jesus could be doing right now in the middle of this. And one of the things I know is there's so much vitriol and mess in our world right now that just be able to kind of hit the pause button and invite Jesus to speak into these scenarios and hear from Jesus and then do what he says. So what you're going to see happen over the next couple of weeks is you'll be seeing some more graphics. You see this one here, just the logo, and got this one, the bumper sticker, Jesus 2020. You see the lamb there, lots and lots of fun. And we've created a couple videos. One is just trying to help people see the vitriol that's out there. We all know it. The power of life and death is literally in the tongue, and we're feeling that and feeling the experience of that. And so perhaps Jesus could speak a different language to us and through us into our world. And so what I want you to do real quick, get a couple of these just to prepare you for it. Here's kind of an interesting, funny video where we're pretending there is a debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, right? And see kind of their response, which is so distinctly different than Jesus's response. So watch this video real quick.
Good evening. My question to both of you is, regardless of the current rhetoric, would either of you name one positive thing that you respect in one another?
Vice President Biden, I'll let you weigh in here.
My time's up. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Vice President.
Mr. Trump, you have 2 minutes.
Thanks to both of you.
I want to thank both the candidates. I want to thank the university here. This concludes the town hall meeting. Our thanks to the candidates, the commission, Washington University, and to everybody who watched.
Good night, everyone.
No, just to be clear, that is not a real debate. That's make-believe. The debate hasn't even happened yet. We just took some footage and made a funny video. So, for what it's worth, just trying to help us see just the complications of our really, really broken world. And you guys have opinions, right? You have real opinions on how you feel about Donald Trump, President Trump. You have real opinions of how you feel about Vice President Biden, right? Real opinions and all sorts of stuff. And let's get some language and some words and a biblical worldview to figure out how we navigate it. And what we're going to do is we're going to establish Jesus as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Because we put our focus and our attention and our hope on him this election season. It'll be worth your time. Be a really good time to invite your friends, co-workers, family, neighbors, regardless of what side of the aisle they're on, red, blue, liberal, progressive, right, left, whatever, all those conservative, whatever those things are. It'll be worth their time. I promise. They'll be better for it. The kingdom will be able to invade so many parts of what's going on in our culture right now. So that's Jesus for president. And to kind of wrap this up, right? So I'm not going to say anything else after this, but kind of wrap this up to prepare you for Jesus for president starting next week, October 4th. Here's the last thing I'll do is we imagined, you got all these political ads and they're just filled with vitriol and nastiness and deception. And so just kind of imagine, okay, if Jesus really were running for president in 2020, how would the right and how would the left take shots at Jesus and disparage his character, right? What would the attack ads look like? And so for your viewing pleasure and for your enjoyment here, and as we wrap up, won't be back on the video after this concludes this week's vision update. And here's for your viewing pleasure, an attack ad that would hypothetically come after Jesus. Here you go.
Jesus Christ. He seems like the right candidate, but do you really know him? He takes water and turns it into wine. Alcoholic. He brings men back from the dead, stealing jobs from doctors. He took one meal and evenly distributed it among all the people. Socialist? People use his name to exorcise demons, putting hard-working American demons out of work. When we reached out to Jesus for a comment, he sent back a dove. What does that even mean? Is this who you want running our country? Wake up, America!